Come on, if you got the victory, do you have the victory tonight? Y'all, I'm excited. I hope y'all ready. Do you got the victory though? Can you feel that? Can you get the vibe? You gotta have the victory tonight. Why? Victory with your siblings. I'm telling y'all, it's about to get heavy. I hope you're ready, because I'm ready. So I'm excited about tonight, y'all. Y'all already know what's about to go down. Welcome to Therapy Tuesdays. Navigating your siblings. Woo, man. How many got some siblings? You be like, I don't know about you. Right? I mean, it's okay. Be real. Don't nobody know you saying it. It's okay. But sometimes I'll be like, I just don't know. But guess what? Tonight we're gonna help you. We're gonna have some deep, real deep conversations tonight. One to help us, not just y'all to help us. You know, because guess what? Me and Janae, we brothers and sisters. Y'all, we got the same daddy. I'm telling you. You see that face? Yeah. Y'all got to catch our good side. But y'all, we really want to help you. Mental health is all around. It's the whole thing. Yes, it's in the church. Yes, it's at home. Yes, it's in your business. But sometimes it's right there with the person that has the same blood as you. You may not have the same last name, but you got the same blood. And sometimes there's some friction, and sometimes it doesn't feel good, or you don't want that friction, and you want to understand how to navigate that. So I'm excited about our segment tonight, navigating sibling struggles. Woo, yeah. Y'all, it's going to get hot and heavy. But y'all, we're going to bring Miss Janae to the stage, because y'all know how we do it here. We about to have that real talk conversation. Okay, so I'm your pastor, AR, and I'm shooting today, and I hope you're ready. And I might shoot the Cupid too. But Miss Janae, come on, tell the people what's up.
All right, so today we're talking about navigating sibling struggles, how to love when it does not feel reciprocated. And boy, I mean, this topic was requested. So that means that this is something that people are really struggling with and living with. We're going to be raw, Pastor A.R. Garrison and I, we did not rehearse this. I don't know what's going to come up, but we're going to be very raw. We met each other in our adolescence, so we were already pretty much raised and very close to adulthood when we first met. Of course, I knew of him throughout childhood, but our father, he laid it low and spread it wide. We had siblings all over the place, and that's okay. And I also want to say this, in my family, we didn't distinguish step siblings versus siblings. If you had the same mama and or daddy, we called you brother and sister. That's just what it was. So for tonight's presentation, I'm going to be using sibling to describe step siblings, sibling-like, cousins that are like siblings, all of the above. But just to get this conversation jumping, I guess what I'm curious about is for you, when you met me, what was the hardest thing about meeting a sister when you're already raised and you're already raised without a father figure?
I would say, I think the hardest thing meeting you the first time, I think the first time we met was after my football game. When I came we was playing Edward Waters. So I think my first thing was like, will she accept me? So I think we had some conversations, but meeting in person, there was a lot of anxieties, and it was just like, oh man, because then that was when I was at Livingstone. So I want to say I was like 21 when we first met, or 21. So 21 years old, I'm like, dang, like, granted, we talked, we had conversations, but the initial, like, meeting my big sister, right? By 9 months, y'all, this is my big sister. So it was like, dang, how this gonna be? Will this be awkward?
Mm-hmm.
Will you be anything like me? So
yes.
It was a whole bunch of feelings and thoughts, but it worked. It clicked, And then at the time, Kyle was your boyfriend, now he's your husband. So it was like meeting both of y'all. It's kind of like, oh, okay, So it was different, but I was ready for the experience because I have two younger siblings by my mom, so I never had any older siblings. So it's like, okay, this will be cool. This will be a vibe, right? But there's a lot of nerves.
Yeah, and I'll be transparent. When you have a father who is somewhat absent in your life, you kind of establish an avoidant attachment style related to relatives connected to him or relatives in general. So I'll give an example of what that really means. Like, while meeting you was great, it was something new and excited because I had already dealt with abandonment. It's like you don't want to get overly attached to people because they might leave you. So I'll be very honest, and I'm even working through that now. Like meeting a sibling now is like, oh, okay, hey, how you doing? Let's really see if you'll stick around. I'm not gonna overly attach to you and act like I know you my whole life because you might leave and I don't want to be hurt. So if I keep a wall up or be a little guarded, then if you leave me just like dad left, then I'm gonna be all right. And I think you've kind of sensed that. Did you sense like a uh get so close to me but not too close to me?
Yeah, it was like a hesitation, like, like, you seem all right, but it was kind of, and I think we both kind of had that, like, there was a lot of hope, there was a lot of false promises, so let me not get my hopes up that this is going to be something good and it's going to work out, and we're going to be this big family, and then you gone, or you go, like, I can't even reach you. And so I think that definitely played a part because, the first time I spoke with our father, I was 14, and the first time I actually met him in person, I was 19. And so it was like 2 years after I met him, I met you. So it was like I met him, because I came to Florida and I was doing my thing, being Mr. Wild Man, and it was just like, oh man, because I think even at that time I had spoke to Sharonda, but never had met her. So it was just like I was like, yo, where he stay at? I'm about to pull up, So I think it was like, oh man, can this be an organic relationship, or is this going to be another heartache?
Yeah, exactly. And I'll share with the audience, like we did not have a good connection, just to be real honest. Like, you cannot have secure connections where you feel insecure. I felt very insecure because I didn't know if you were going to stick around. We have other siblings that I've kind of done that with, and they haven't stuck around. Not to badmouth anybody, but I have had some of our siblings where we meet them, and the first time they meet me, they'll ask me for money, and then when I say, unfortunately, no, I got to set that boundary, I never hear from them again. So I'm grateful that our connection wasn't like that. And I'm especially grateful that even though I had a wall up, you didn't run away from me. And I think that's why we are where we're at right now. You didn't let my guard stop you from loving me and stop you from getting close to me. You kept trying. And that's exactly why we are here. I hate to say this, but you broke down my insecurity because of your presence, your consistency. And I'm no longer insecure with you. My wall has come down. Now we're building a secure connection. And I think we are a great example of what it looks like to start a relationship off in fear and then it grow into love.
I like that. Look, and that's the first time I ever heard that, y'all. So we all hearing it for the first
Yeah.
time. So with that said, let me hold $2 though. You know what I'm saying?
No, I ain't got it. I don't have it.
I appreciate, your transparency. And y'all, this is what Therapy Tuesday is about, us being transparent. So, while we're talking and engaging, I also want you to think of sometimes that fear will make us not be real with that sibling. And so, but when you actually open up, what you'll realize is maybe they feel the same way, or maybe you'll find out there was something that you gave them that you didn't know. So, I'm thankful that, hey, I broke down your walls just wanting to have a relationship with you and being consistent, because I know what inconsistency felt like from our father. And it was like, yo, I don't like that. And I think now because of that, it has also put a bigger push behind me as a father. Because it's like, yeah, I'm going to be all up in Noah business. I don't care, because I know what that consistency is. And because wanting that connection from somebody, your sibling, they have your blood. It's like, because when your parents are gone, yeah, you may have aunts and uncles, but it's nothing like a sibling.
No.
It's
No.
totally different. And so it was like, hey, and we have what? I think that he got what, 11, 12 of us?
I don't know.
You know what I mean? So
yeah.
We literally got a starting squad on the football team, and like only 2 people regularly, 3 people communicate. You know what I'm saying? So you got half the team that don't know what the other half of the team going on. And then I look at the dynamics of our nieces and nephews. I think when I counted the other day, I think we have a total of 14 or 15 with everybody. And it's like, yo, a lot of my nieces and nephews, I don't know. You know what I mean? Or no one doesn't know her cousins. And it's like, but that starts with the sibling dynamic of communication, being open, being willing to talk and have a conversation and, go through the goods, the bads, and the boundaries.
And I'm at peace with that. And I'm going to talk about that in my presentation. Sometimes we won't be connected to siblings and cousins. We're not living in a time like many, many years ago where we didn't have cell phones and distractions from careers like we do now. And it was a lot easier to stay connected to family because a lot of family lived in close proximity. But a lot of us have left our places of origin. We started careers. And it's just hard to stay connected. And sometimes we will disconnect and it's nothing wrong. Sometimes you just outgrow people. Sometimes you're misaligned. Sometimes, to be honest, you don't want those type of people, even though they're family, in your inner circle. And that is okay. And I think this is a good point to segue into the presentation. What do you think? You have questions for me?
Let's go ahead and rock on.
Okay. Now I'm going to put a disclaimer out there. This is a good topic. We may go a little bit over an hour. But I'm okay with that, as long as y'all okay with being on with me for a little bit.
If you got to go, you got to go. You can go back and catch the replay. But y'all, we really want, because there's a lot of people dealing with this. A lot of people going through struggles with siblings, loving them, understanding them, interacting with them. So we really want to give you something real and tangible so that you can take with you. So, all right, sis, I'm going to let you take it away.
All right, let's go. Let's rock. And as always, this is going to be very practical. When you leave me today, you're going to be able to apply what I'm saying. I got my Therapy Tuesday hoodie on. One of these days, we'll show you guys how to get your merch too. But we're bridging the gap between the couch and the church. We'll make it mental health fun, practical. I want you guys to stay present with me, participate. Let's have a good discussion. I see some really good comments already posted. Take notes so that way you can always be your own therapist when you leave for me today. This is not to replace actual psychotherapy. Let me put that disclaimer out there. This is practical self-help tools so you can help yourself if you had the capacity to do so. If you're triggered, take care of yourself. It's not my intent to trigger you, but I might. I'm sorry in advance. Go get some cool water, get up, breathe. That's not my intent. My objective today, I want to help you guys gain a deeper understanding of the complexities behind broken sibling relationships. And I want to equip you with practical tools to support your mental and emotional well-being, whether you choose to reconnect or move forward in healthy estrangement. I just want you to have some tools, and there's no wrong or right way to decide how to interact with your sibling. Whether you decide to stay connected or disconnected is not my role tonight. I don't know if you are chiming in because you're looking for that aha moment where I might say the right thing that's like, oh, Janae said, cut him off. No, I really want you to listen to what I'm saying and use wisdom to guide your decision. So starting out 2 words that came to my consciousness while I was putting this presentation together: empathy and blame. And I wanted to start off with that. Empathy over blame. I first want to let you guys know it's extremely hard to have empathy when you've been hurt and violated. So let's just put that out there. But if you could crawl your way back to empathy, no matter how much pain you have related to loving siblings that won't love you back, try to fight like you've never fought before to get back to empathy. And empathy is essentially putting yourself in the other person's shoes. So the information that I'm presenting, I want you to imagine you as yourself, but then also put yourself in your sibling's position to see how you might be receiving the information as well. Blame. I want you to eradicate blame. Blame is very dangerous. It's nobody's fault. It just is. Blame is a tool that will justify you being in a very stuck, unproductive position. In life, things just are. There's no one to blame. Like I said at the beginning, there are some siblings you are not aligned with. You don't need to be connected with them. That is no one's fault. They just have a different personality. They have different values. They have different beliefs. That is no one's fault. It just is. We're not going to beat people up because they're different, including siblings. Don't blame anyone. All right. So I wanted to start off with, I guess, a little bit of a thought provoking question. And this is really rhetorical. I don't want you to really answer it in the chat or anything. Have you ever asked yourself, if we weren't related, would I still choose this person to be in my life? And it's hard not to try to answer it. But it just something in my spirit tweak when I read it, because you really start to wonder, would I be in connection with a person if they didn't have the title of family? And if we're honest with ourselves, the answer might be no a lot of time. And it's nothing wrong with that answer being no, but it just helps you to see how much our beliefs and how much we've been raised and taught to show up, how much that keeps us in connection with people who actually may not be serving us, but they have a family title. And fortunately, some of this stuff that I'm presenting will carry over into other family relationships. But we're only talking about siblings tonight. So let's talk about on the surface, why do bonds break with siblings? I bet right now, if I ask you guys to just type in the chat why bonds break, you're gonna give me some very surface level answers like jealousy. You hear that a lot. Parental favoritism, maybe a caregiver or a parent tended to favor one sibling over the other, or if you have like blended families or step siblings, maybe dad took care of one set of kids but not the other. Um, Unresolved childhood trauma. Maybe there's some trauma that happened and you guys are blaming each other for it. Those are very surface level. I know you guys know those like the back of your hand. So I'm not going to go deeper into those. And you probably could add 100 more. The ones that I'm going to go over today are the ones that we trap in our subconscious and we don't really bring up. Because if we have to admit that these are the reasons why we're not in connection with our siblings, it makes us feel ashamed, makes us feel bad, because the world tells us you got to love your siblings. You got to like your siblings. And if you don't, you're a bad sibling. But I'm here to free you from that perspective. You can absolutely not like your sibling, but love them. And that's okay. I'm giving you permission tonight to admit to yourself, I love my siblings, but I do not like them. Yes, that happens a lot. So, 10 unconventional reasons why sibling relationships deteriorate over time. Ooh, that's a big word, deteriorate. There we go. All right. And just to put this disclaimer out there, Janae did not make this up. These are things that I've observed also in clients, but a lot of these unconventional reasons come from family systems theory, attachment theory, psychological and sociological research. So these are real things out there that people are dealing with subconsciously beneath the surface. You guys did not get on here with me tonight to hear things that you already know. So let's dig a little deeper. So, the first one, lifestyle mismatches. Sometimes you don't match with your siblings. You have different values, political beliefs, or financial habits. They can create emotional distance. When you do not feel a sense of connection, it's hard to connect, especially when one sibling feels judged or misunderstood. A lot of times, differences can feel like you don't like me, and that may create insecurity, and that insecurity creates walls, and as long as walls are up, it's hard to build connection. So consider that. Do I match with my siblings or my step siblings? That might be why you're not deeply connected, and that is okay. Lifestyle mismatches. Think about that. The next one is unequal emotional labor. Yes, this is from family systems theory. Unequal emotional labor. Put that word in your notes. Emotional labor. It's invisible, but it's heavy. It's there. One sibling may always be the emotional caretaker or fixer, leading to burnout and resentment, especially if the other sibling rarely reciprocates. So, this is where one of the siblings has a heavy burden to carry. And you guys know what that's called? Grief. Grief means heavy burden. You mean to tell me loving my sibling feels like grief? Emotional labor? It's a heavy burden? Absolutely. Absolutely. It's very heavy, and sometimes it is a bit one sided for a lot of reasons. I could get into it. Maybe one sibling doesn't have the capacity to handle the emotional labor. Maybe the family dynamics created roles, and I'm going to talk about that. The next one, social media comparison. We're living in a digital society right now. We got to think about this. Constantly seeing a sibling's curated life online can trigger envy or feelings of inadequacy. especially when there's little real life connection to balance it out. So these are siblings. They never really talk. They don't have a connection. There's some insecurity there, and there's a wall. Then they get online. They really are not happy with where they are in their lives, and they see this image of a sibling that's killing it. They're successful. Maybe the parents are praising them, kind of creating that imbalance that we were talking about. And remember, I asked you to put yourself on both sides of the sibling relationship. I want you to see this from all angles. Yeah, so sometimes there is a sense of envy that's created by an image of your sibling. Keep that in mind. Your sibling hasn't done anything to you, but you are feeling extremely insecure because of an image based on your perception. If this is you who I am talking about, deal with this, because this is not your sibling. Your perception is your reality, and your perception is changeable. You can work through that. All right. The next one, inherited family roles. Yes. uh this means you didn't even ask for this role. This means you were born into it. They had dubbed this right on your life before you even got here and asked for it. So birth order roles, for example, the responsible one or the wild one, can trap siblings in patterns that no longer serve them as adults. Maybe you were outgoing and hyper as a kid, but as an adult you do not want to be known as hyper and unbalanced, and that's all the family keeps referring to you as, and you're sick of it. So think about this. If you have siblings in your life, maybe you've labeled them, maybe you have mislabeled them, and it's time to respect them as an adult. They don't want to be called those titles anymore. They're not the same people. They've evolved. Respect that. That may be keeping them insecure and keeping them at a distance. Maybe you're that sibling that feels that way. Advocate for yourself. Speak up. Your inherited family roles do not have to remain your identity. You can shed them. You can change them. You can let them know straight up, hey, that ain't me no more. All right. The next one, differences in healing from childhood trauma. Remember, trauma is subjective. It impacts everybody differently. Just because I was able to handle, the abandonment of my father and be very resilient, I may have a sibling who fell completely apart, can't function, and that could change how we interact with each other. I know one of the things that really stressed me out being the oldest sibling with a father who was not present for many of us is a lot of my younger siblings will often make me the punching bag for his absence. And what that looked like was they had the illusion that I had a better version of him or I had him more. So they kind of became a little bit jealous. But in actuality, we all were abandoned. But they just felt jealous of me because they felt like I had more of my parent. Maybe this is you and your siblings. Maybe there's a step dynamic, or maybe you're much older than your siblings, and maybe you got a different version, or maybe I'm even dealing with this too. I got a younger sibling who I feel got a better version of my mom than I got. Obviously, I'm not jealous, but I could see how that dynamic creates a sense of envy and jealousy. All right. So feeling used or obligated. That's a heavy one right there. Relationships can become strained when one sibling constantly asks for help, money, babysitting, rides without appreciation or return support. All relationships in life, whether it's intimate, sibling, partner, friendships, they are about reciprocity, give and take. And if it is one sided, that is not a relationship. That could feel like an ATM. It's transactional. Um, where are the checks and balances there? Ask yourself, am I the sibling that's always calling asking for stuff? When was the last time I blessed my sibling? If this is you on either side, make some adjustments. Um, but no one wants to be in a situation where they feel used and taken advantage of. I know I don't. And I'll be very transparent. For some time, I felt like that with my siblings. Like I am only good for what I could do for them. And some of the evidence for that is they were happy and talking to me as long as I was giving. But when I was stopped, I wouldn't hear from them. Now, obviously, I don't hold that against them. They were doing the best they could. But I realized what part of that problem was me, and I stopped giving money because if the transaction stops, then there it is. I stopped the part of the problem that was me. So if you were me and I am you, stop the transactions. That will help. All right. The next reason, romantic partner conflicts. So, disapproval or tension between a sibling and their partner can bleed into sibling relationship, especially if someone feels forced to choose sides. Listen, I know this is extremely hard. I have learned this over the years. We cannot change people. We cannot make people love a certain type of person. Sometimes we can see red flags long before our siblings can, but it is not our responsibility to govern their love life. I know it's hard to sit back and watch them suffer. And if suffering is watching your siblings suffer is impacting your mental health, then you definitely need to make a boundary there. However, set a boundary, but don't give ultimatums. Don't make them choose. Don't tell them who to love. Don't tell them how to love. It is their life. They have to learn on their own. So definitely being in sibling relationships where there's a disdain for the intimate partner will cause conflict. In fact, you'll notice I'd be very careful too, especially when it comes to domestic violence, because you will stay away and then that sibling will be pushed further into isolation as well. So that's just something to consider as well. The next one, success imbalance. Yes, one sibling's achievement, career, marriage, or kids may unintentionally trigger feelings of failure or invisibility in the other, even if unspoken. Yes, this is no one's fault. It just is. You may have a sibling who is very high achieving compared to another sibling who is not as high achieving, and that will make them feel invisible, like they're unimportant, like they're unworthy. And it's not that you're doing it on purpose, their insecurities are just being triggered. It's just happening. It's nothing you did to cause it, it just is. If you are the sibling that is not as high achieving, I challenge you to deal with your perspectives and to figure out how to get closer to your sibling so that way you can work together in tangent, so that you can figure out how they did it, what they're doing, what their motivations are. Build a connection with them to learn from them. But you do have to deal with that insecurity first, because there will be no real connections where there is insecurity. You will always lead with fear of being invisible, fear of being unworthy. And every time you interact with that sibling, that is who they're meeting, insecurity and fear. They're not really meeting you. And honestly, that could be exhausting. Imagine you just being yourself and achieving things, but every time you interact with a sibling, you're getting an attitude, you're getting a pushback. They want to fight and argue with you, and you're absolutely confused. You're doing nothing but just trying to overcome generational curses, and you're getting beat up by your sibling. If you're on either side of that, deal with that. The next one, chronic lack of communication. Listen, communication is the only vehicle we have to maintain connection. We must communicate. That's why we pray to God. That's our way of communicating to remain connected. You have to communicate. Silence over time can feel like rejection. Yes, busy lives and unspoken expectations can quietly erode the relationship without direct conflict. So, this ain't even an argument. This is the complete opposite. This is the lack of communication. Yes, don't just call me when you need money. Call me and say how you doing. Call me and say, when was the last time your heart broken? Call me and say, sis, I don't got no money, but I got a listening ear. Bro, I don't have any money, but I got a listening ear and an open heart, and I will pray with you and pray for you. Listen, what's the next thing you got planned? Look, I don't have money to travel, but FaceTime me. Just reach out however you can. Unfortunately, when you have insecurities and fears, they tell you things that are not real, and you will start to move according to the thoughts inside of your head instead of reality. You'll actually believe your sibling hates you because they're more successful. You'll actually believe that your sibling thinks less of you because they took a different path. That's not reality. That is based on your insecurities whispering lies to your consciousness. That is not real. So if you want to stay connected, you got to communicate. And I will say this, social media is killing the art of healthy communication. Stop sending those emojis, dig deep down inside, and be authentic and be vulnerable and say what you mean and mean what you say, but don't say it mean. We really have to learn how to just be raw and authentic. I was working with a couple recently, and some of the homework I give couples, I would give in a sibling scenario. Just say exactly what's on your heart, even if you feel stupid saying it. just say it. Just do it. Um, but I will say this, a lot of times we hide behind text messages, emails, emojis, DMs. No, healthy human connection, in person, FaceTime. And if you must do a text message, make sure it's not one of those dissertations. Pick up the phone and have a conversation. Intentions get lost, emotionality gets lost. They can read it and add. The insecurity will tell them things you said that you didn't say. So I would refrain from that. But we got to start communicating better in a healthier way. The next one and the very last one, the 10th one, grief or family loss. We never really look at this one. Death of a parent or loved one can bring unresolved pain to the surface, cause inheritance conflicts, yes, fighting over what's left, or reveal differing coping styles. So sometimes your sibling not talking to you is the best way they can cope with the loss of a parent or a loved one. Think about that. Put your empathy hat on. Yes, they're doing the best they can. Grief is heavy. The loss of a parent is especially unique and different. Um, it's ineffective coping though, but not to judge away somebody's coping. It's ineffective because it is not creating wellness, to isolate away from siblings. So, one of the things I teach when I'm doing grief work, fight isolation. Fight it, because if you get alone, then your thoughts will put you in a mental prison. We need people to knock on the door and get us out of that. We need siblings to do that. So maybe, and I'm just going to go through and repeat these 10 unconventional things that usually live in the subconscious, because I really want you to want it to stick. So lifestyle mismatches, that mean you don't align with your sibling. Unequal emotional labor, one sibling may be carrying a lot more than the other. Social media comparison, um, feelings of inadequacy. I'm not as good as my sibling. Inherited family roles, stuck in roles you didn't ask for, you don't like, you don't want them anymore. You've outgrown them, but the family won't let you grow up. Differences in healing from childhood trauma. Trauma is telling you to be jealous of each other, or that one parent loved you more than the other, or did more for the other. And that might send the message that one sibling is better than the other. Feeling used or obligated, yes. Using your sibling like they're an ATM or Walmart, a one-stop shop. You can get whatever you want, but never giving them anything. Romantic partner conflicts, telling your siblings who to love and how to love and when to love. Success imbalance, just two siblings being at two different places in their life. Nobody's wrong, nobody's bad, but still feeling deeply inadequate. It just is. It's nobody's fault. And then chronic lack of communication, disengaging for whatever reason, maybe grief, maybe you're feeling really insecure, you don't know how to communicate, you've been hiding behind emojis or text messages. And then the final one, grief or family loss. So just really not knowing how to maintain connection and get your footing after you're dealing with a really big loss of a parent. So if you needed a sign to either end, improve, or do something about your sibling relationship, this is your sign. I gave it to you for free. Here's a sign to do something. And I want to say ending the relationship because it's unhealthy is doing something. Maybe you've been in a very ambivalent position. Ambivalence is wanting to do it but not wanting to do it. So imagine you were trying to jump into a jump rope or double dutch rope. So you're doing this back and forth. What we don't realize is that this causes paralysis. You're really not moving. It's a rocking chair. You're moving, but you're going nowhere. You're not being progressive, and you wonder why you feel stuck. So this is your sign. Let's do something. This is your call to actions. So here are your call to actions. Here are the things you can do. Options for how to navigate. You can set boundaries. That's an option, right? Write these down. Decide what's best for you. In the relationship is an option, right? You can rebuild with the right tools and the right support. You can rebuild. Um, take a break. Take a break. You ain't got to cut them off. Hey, and here's a nugget for free. You don't even have to tell them you take a break. You're taking a break. Do you know how many breaks I've taken and my siblings don't know? I needed the mental break, particularly right after my dad died. Ooh, I needed a break from siblings and family. I ain't tell nobody. Listen, if you don't tell them, they won't know. Stay connected as is. Not all sibling relationships are broken down. Maybe you're on tonight. You're like, I love my sister. I love my brother. We ain't going through that. praise God for that. Stay connected. Keep doing what you're doing. That means it works. You can do nothing. And here's my favorite one. If you do nothing, stay miserable. Absolutely. Keep doing what you're doing. You're going to keep getting the results you always get. Um, Deny, suppress, and avoid. And it's right, it's very close to that other one of staying miserable. When you deny, suppress, and avoid, you create the illusion that you're okay. You're not okay. Remember, denial, suppression, and avoidance only begets more of that. You're going to be in a never ending cycle of denying, suppressing, and avoiding. So that's not productive because that's like being a hamster on a wheel. So those are your options. I hope you wrote them down. Think about the dynamic you're having with your sibling. Think about which one might be in alignment with wisdom and wellness. Which one is going to put you on a path to living the best life you can for as long as you can. And I will put this out there. It's not a one size fits all forever type thing. You may change. You might need to set boundaries today in the relationship next year. It depends. There are a lot of factors. All right. So I have a few more tools to help you. So how do you know if you need to set boundaries? So here's some signs for you. You leave interactions feeling drained, anxious, or disrespected. Listen, don't close your eyes to the cause of your own suffering. You feel that feeling every time you talk to your siblings, that knot in your stomach, that frog in your throat, heart palpitations, sweating. You ready to fight. Literally, you're going into a fight, flight, freeze, fun, trauma response every time you talk to your siblings. That is not normal. They are activating your nervous system, and you don't want to ignore that. The relationship feels one-sided or emotionally unsafe. You don't feel safe with them. And we'll take the emotionally off. You just don't feel safe. Listen, I got a few family members and siblings. I don't feel safe. I don't want my children around them. And I'm going to tell you right now, never apologize for maintaining your own safety. Don't feel guilty about that. They consistently ignore your needs, time, or space. So these are siblings. Even when you advocate for yourself, they never pause and consider, you know what, I may not agree with you, but because you said you need that, I'll do my best. And I always say this, when people love you, they may not be a part of the insecurity, but they'll always be willing to be a part of your safety. And that's why I appreciate Pastor A.R. Garrison, because even though he did not create the abandonment insecurity that I had, he consistently worked at the things that made me safe. That's love, y'all. We need to learn how to be love in action with our siblings. That's how we break down these generational curses. That's how we overcome these things. Love. It's all about love. We get so caught up in who did what, how they made us feel, the past, what's not being done. And it's just really about making each other feel safe. That's it. You're always the one giving, fixing, or apologizing. If you are in any of these positions, you may need to go with setting boundaries. What's the purpose of setting a boundary? And I underlined it right there for you. Protect your peace. That's it. You need to protect your peace and your energy while still allowing the relationship to exist in a safer, more manageable way. Protect your peace. You do not have to apologize for protecting your peace. All right, I'm giving y'all some words for y'all emotional vocabulary. Write this one down. Healthy estrangement. See, when you see estrangement by itself, it's very dirty, right? Estranged because a lot of us have internalized that you don't cut family off. Family is everything. You show up for family. And that is ingrained generation after generation after generation. So much so, it's a part of DNA and identity. That's why we have such a hard time cutting family off. But I put a beautiful word at the beginning of that very ugly word. Healthy. Did you know that estrangement can be healthy? It is absolutely okay to put a space between you and a perceived threat, and you don't have to apologize for it. Put it down in your notebook. Healthy estrangement. It's a thing. So if you're listening to me and you needed a sign to cut someone off, you got all the signs I've already talked about. You can healthily detach from sibling relationships that are making you mentally unhealthy. Absolutely. So here's your sign for when to end relationships. And if you haven't heard your scenario yet, don't worry. I might come down your road in a little bit. Signs. There is consistent patterns of emotional abuse, manipulation, or harm. Unfortunately, sometimes when we have siblings that are abused and they're carrying a lot of trauma, they are abusive. And here's the thing, they don't even know that they're abusive. It's subconscious. They believe that the way that they're showing up is healthy. They're doing the best they can. And here's the scary thing about someone who's traumatized and disassociated and don't know that they're abusive. There will be no accountability where there's delusion. So they're never going to change. So that means that you're going to have to accept being abused. But I'm telling you right now, you don't have to accept being abused. This might be a sign that you need to end that relationship. You've tried repeatedly to repair the relationship without progress. Listen, no one likes to do the same thing over and over and over and stay in the same place. End it and preserve your energy. Energy is not endless. You do run out of energy. The relationship is negatively impacting your mental health or other relationships. Now it's split. So now it's not only impacting you, but now you impacting the people I love and my children. Absolutely not. And that's where I draw the line personally as a mom. When your behavior and your actions take money out of my household, impact my children, impact my resources, I'm cutting you off. Remember, my responsibility is to maintain my own safety. Yes, Kenta, scissors. We cutting you off, and I am not feeling guilty about it. I'm not going to apologize and feel guilty and ashamed for maintaining my safety. And if you really think about it, a lot of times we stay longer in sibling relationships or unhealthy family relationships longer than we need to because we were raised by a generation of people that were told to be quiet when things hurt them. But it stops with us. We do not have to be hurt by family and tolerate it over and over again. The relationship is negatively impacting your mental health or other relationships. Re-engagement causes more pain than peace. Listen, if you take a break, you get peace of mind, and then you go back, and now you have more pain than when you were in peace. That's your sign. You've tried. Now, if you didn't try at all, I might challenge you a little bit as a therapist. But if you actually take a break and go back, and you have multiple scenarios and you have evidence that every time you go back, your blood pressure going up, your heart is beating fast again, that is a sign that that's probably an unsafe space for you. Go ahead, practice healthy estrangement. What is the purpose of ending relationships and practicing healthy estrangement? You get to reclaim your well-being. Your well-being is your responsibility to maintain. So you get to live a life that's worth living by cutting off relationships that with siblings that are abusive, that are not serving you, that hurt you. All right. When to rebuild the relationship. Now, maybe you have cut them off. Maybe you took a break. Maybe you've seen some signs that they've evolved. Maybe that little thing that's embedded in us, that family is everything and you're not supposed to stay away from them, is very loud and you want to stick your foot in the water again. But here's some signs that you need to rebuild. Both parties acknowledge past hurt and are open to change. Key there, both. There's a duality there, not one-sided. There's mutual effort to communicate, apologize, and grow. And trust is possible to rebuild with time and consistency. I really do have a belief in second chances. I do. I don't believe that we should be so fixated on cutting things off to the point of irreparability. I do believe that people can change. And the purpose of rebuilding, reconnection and repairing is important. But the key there is reconnect and repair with intentionality. You don't want to reconnect and repair and you're doing the same old stuff you was doing in the dynamic that didn't work the first or the second or third time, however many times you tried. You got to try a new thing every single time. When to stay connected. So when there are no major changes. And I talked about you all before. These are the siblings that are getting along. They have great connection. The walls are built down. This is where me and Pastor A.R. Garrison are right now. You know, the relationship is stable. Even imperfect. You feel emotionally safe and respected overall. You have occasional disagreements, but they are handled with care. And, you know, we have such an openness. Like we talk about every 2 weeks and we are so vulnerable and raw. And I think it's just so beautiful that the dynamic of our relationship. And if any of you are listening to me, know me, you guys know that if I don't feel safe with you, you're not getting in. You're not getting close to me. That is just a built-in survival feature that I have. So he has been able to penetrate my walls in such a way that I voluntarily talk to him every 2 weeks and I share everything. And you know what? Even though I didn't have a healthy connection with my father, my husband and him are probably two of very few men in my life that I feel so secure with. And that took work and consistency. Some of these things I'm sharing. You have occasional disagreements, but they are handled with care. The relationship adds value, support, and comfort to your life. There are many times in my life where I'm going through something. Pastor A.R. Garrison is the only person who will reach out to me. In fact, he is one of the only people outside of my husband that consistently asks me how I am doing. He is literally a safe space for me. And the purpose of maintaining connection is to continue building naturally. Naturally, it's organic. We're not forcing, it's not performative. I'm not pretending like I love him. He's not pretending like he loves me. It's real and it's healthy and it's secure. And that's really where we all need to be. I didn't say it's perfect. I didn't say he gives me money, I give him money. It's not transactional. It's organic. So how do you know if it's time for family therapy? How do you know that? You've tried some of these things over and over. You had it up to your head with stress with your sibling. It is time for family therapy when repeating the same arguments when no resolution takes place. Avoiding each other or feeling emotionally distant. So now you're avoiding, you're not talking. Other family members are dragged into the issues because now y'all need a witness. You need a witness to blame the other one to make them look worse than you are. And remember, we're getting rid of that blame thing. So maybe this part will go away after listening to me. Unresolved childhood hurt or trauma. And in fact, depending on how intense the trauma, you may need to do individual therapy first before family. And if you got a good family therapist, they'll tell you, look, we can't work on this first until you get some tools to regulate your emotions before you have these really heavy conversations. Conflict after a major life event, death, divorce, illness, etc. I can't tell you how many families reach out to me when Big Mama died. Matriarchs and moms. It's nothing wrong with that. And it doesn't have to be long term. You might need maybe 4 or 5 sessions with the whole family there just to really sort through some things. You need a place to put those feelings. Feeling unsafe, unheard, or disrespected. I underlined this next one, so lean in. That must be why I underlined it. The relationship is affecting your mental health. Yes. Now you're having those negative symptoms. You can't sleep, you can't eat, you can't maintain employment, you're not functioning properly. You need to get help. You need, it's time for some support. You've tried to fix things, but nothing changes. And here's one, lean in again. You both want to try therapy. I can't tell you how many calls I get. We need to come in for family therapy. I'm willing to come in, but they ain't willing to come in. Well, unfortunately, the therapist is not going to make the sibling that doesn't want to come in come in. Everybody has to be willing to participate. So let's talk about tools to reconnect. Excuse that typo. I'm glad it's there so you guys can see that I'm human. Yes. Tools to reconsent. That's what it said, but it should be reconnect. So if you want to reconnect, these are very practical. You've heard them before. Start with a soft conversation, not confrontation. Let me tell you, word selection when you're trying to have interpersonal effectiveness is extremely important. It takes mindfulness, it takes patience, it takes practicing. Your feelings are very real and they're very strong. And sometimes our feelings will cause us to say things that will automatically trigger anybody. You want to refrain from using the word you. If you start a sentence off with you might as well change that to blame. Automatically, the person hearing that is going to be defensive and put their deuce up. Learn how to initiate a conversation where it makes people put their guard down and they want to lean in and engage with you. I always start off with I noticed that we've been trying to do this, but haven't been very successful. If you notice, I didn't say the word you. I didn't say you've been messing up our relationship and we can't get on the track. If you start off like that, they're not going to want to engage with you. Be very calculated with how you speak. Use I statements to express your feelings without blame. Set clear, healthy boundaries and respect theirs too. You notice I put and all capital. Everybody has boundaries. You can set your boundaries, but you know what? I had an epiphany a couple of years ago. If we focus a little bit more attention on respecting people's boundaries, everybody would need less boundaries. Isn't that something? But that's another conversation for another day. That's not on topic. But make sure you set clear boundaries, but also respect other people's boundaries. Well, why do I need to respect my siblings' boundaries? They're not respecting mine. I'm sure you're going to say that. But going back to what I said, it's all about love. I didn't create the insecurity, but I'm creating the safety. So if you tell me not calling you after a certain time is what's best for you, even if I'm having an emergency after that certain time, I need to talk to you anyway. A part of love says, I love you enough. I'm willing to try to give you what you want. That's why. Write a letter if speaking face to face feels too hard. I really appreciate a good old written letter. Not a text, not an email, but do you know when you write, your subconscious is unlocked and you say more genuine and authentic things. That's why love letters are so nice because they come from a place that you don't get when you're typing or sending a text message. Write a good old letter and mail it. Yes, mail it. It's very intimate, it's very vulnerable. Do that. Revisit sharing memories or values that once reconnected you. Talk about the good old days. That's the key there. Not the bad old days. Talk about the good old days. Focus on understanding, not fixing or convincing. The greatest example of this, I don't know if you guys got to see the conversation that Will Smith had with dark skin Unviv, as we affectionately refer to her as. But it was a beautiful example of brave listening. It was a beautiful example of holding a space. When I teach people how to have practice brave listening, I say, imagine you have a container in your hand when someone is talking to you. And when they're talking to you in this container, it's holding everything they're saying. You don't have to absorb it. Just observe and notice what they're saying. And don't respond to it. Just hold that invisible container. Hold it. Be patient. Healing takes time. A lot of times we can't get through conversations because every time someone expresses their truth, there's something inside of us. Our insecurity registers that as I am wrong. I did something wrong. I caused this. And we become extremely defensive. But you have to learn to have brave listening. Brave listening is listening even when it's hard to listen. I didn't say brave responding. I think we do very good at that. But brave listening. You have to listen. On both sides, not one side. Everything that I'm saying, I want you to know. I don't know if you're at home and your insecurity is being very loud. Like this, Janae talking about that sibling, not me. Unfortunately, I probably am referring to you. I'm getting you and your sibling together at the same time because I always say this when I'm dealing with relationship dynamics. You both are right and wrong. Nobody is 100% right. There are parts of the dynamic in the relationship that you need to improve on and your sibling needs to improve on, or you need to just dissolve. Find peace from a distance. Yes, it's okay to do that. Healthy estrangement. Accept that they may never be who you hope they'd be. This is it right now. Grieving the version of the person that you want them to be and accepting who they actually are. That's a whole nother conversation for another day too. Limit or pause contact if it protects your mental health. This next one is going to punch you in the stomach. Release guilt for stepping back. Release it. Peace is not betrayal. Listen, that's an affirmation right there. Put that on a sticky note, put it on your mirror, put it in the bathroom, repeat that out loud. Peace is not betrayal. A lot of times choosing peace feels like you're betraying that embedded family belief. No, it's not. It is not betrayal. Prioritize your emotional safety and self-care. Yes. Create space for grieving the relationship you wish you had. What does that mean? It's okay to cry. It's okay to miss them. It's okay to fight the air because you don't know where to start. Give yourself space to feel those feelings. You don't have to try to feel like you're happy and okay and you don't need your sibling. I've had relationships, like friendships, I've had to cry over. Forget siblings, I've cried over friends. I have a friend now I miss, but we're just not healthy for each other, and that's okay. Seek therapy to process and heal in a healthy way. Yes. And more importantly, build a support system outside of family. This is where good friends come into play. You can call them. And I've been there. Listen, I have a couple of good friends. I can get on the phone and vent and they listen. Thank God for them. Thank God for them. Something else that I want to talk about that's kind of subconscious and deeper inside that I feel remiss if I don't talk about this with you. We got to acknowledge some inner conflicts. There's something called dialectics. That's where two opposites can exist at the same time. And a lot of times these internalized dialectics are why we're so ambivalent, why we can't make decisions, why we don't know what to do. The core dialectic, when you're looking at this, what we're talking about today with siblings, there are two things battling on the inside of us in our subconscious. The first thing is family is everything, and I need to protect my peace. So you go from trying to live up to the belief or the value that family is everything, while also simultaneously trying to do the I need to protect my peace thing. So it's like, which one do I do? I call this is when your values and your belief get in the ring and duke it out and have a full-blown fight. And nobody talks about this, the internal conflict that we're often going through in these family and sibling dynamics. We getting beat up and nobody see it, but we feel it. We do feel it. Here's some other common dialectics when it comes to this. They're not as complex as the core one. I want to forgive versus I don't feel safe or respected. You want to forgive them. You want to give them a second chance. But that insecurity says, no, we don't feel safe here. I've been there. I've lived this. I don't feel safe or respected, but I want to forgive. So now you're in limbo, right? I miss them versus I can't keep getting hurt. I really miss them, but do I miss them more than they're hurting me? Am I hurting more than I miss them? And bam, you're stuck right there. Internal conflict. We share a lifetime of memories versus they don't feel like family anymore. Talk about that dynamic where you're not communicating anymore. Man, we went through so much together. I don't even know them. I don't know what they like. I don't know what size shoe they wear. I don't know what their favorite color is. I don't even remember the sound of their voice. I haven't talked to them in so long. That internal dynamic right there will keep you stuck. I should try again versus I've tried so many times already. How do you know if the next time it's not really going to work? So I could see how you really want to try again, but then you count in your mind how many times you already tried and then you're stuck. They're going through something too versus so am I. I deserve care too. Listen, I can see how this one can be really hard, especially when you have the family role of being the protector. I've been in this one too. They're going through something too. So am I, and I deserve care too. I want to fight the air right there. Yes, everybody's going through something. Who says your suffering is bigger than mine? Who says you deserve care, but I don't? So now you're in a battle between, do I protect my peace or do I try to help them find peace? Especially when you're the oldest sibling and your role is to protect and you have the role of being the responsible one. That's a very hard one. Letting go feels wrong versus holding on is wearing me down. Letting go goes against what you've been raised. Mama said y'all stick together. When one fight, y'all all fight. You've been raised that way. But then all of a sudden in adulthood, you have to let go because it's wearing you down. Talk about an internal conflict. A lot of you all are in these internal conflicts. And we're a myriad of things, and more than one thing can exist at the same time. And that's exactly what's happening. But I'm asking you to use wisdom and mindfulness to get clear about what you are experiencing in your sibling dynamic and pick a side. And that side will change. It may evolve, and that's okay. But you are stuck because you're trying to play both sides. You cannot be playing in a championship game of life trying to play on both teams. It don't work that way. Pick a side. And unfortunately, depending on the side you pick, you will have consequences, emotional consequences. So please consider the emotional consequences of the side that you choose. And I thought it was important to talk about internal conflicts and what they cause. Internal conflicts create emotional tension that can lead to guilt. How many of y'all feel guilty about picking a side? Confusion. How many of you guys have been confused for years and might even still be confused after this discussion? and paralysis. How many of you feel stuck, like you can't move, you can't breathe? Yes, that's because you're having an internal conflict. Psychotherapy helps with those. We love these actually. At least I do. I'll speak in my I voice. I just talked about that. I love these. I love helping my clients one identify these and be real about this and then work through them. So here's the answer. I know maybe I said this earlier. Maybe you came on hoping Janae was going to tell me what to do with my siblings. She was going to tell me to cut them off or work on it. The truth of the matter is, only you can decide. Only you can make the choice. It is your life. You are living it. You are experiencing the suffering. You have to decide. And remember, if you don't decide, that is still a decision. And I said, no matter what you decide, there will be emotional repercussions. So, as always, I just want to quickly wrap up with true and false, just to make sure you retain something from tonight. Put a T if it's true in the comment section or an F. Setting boundaries with a sibling means you've given up on the relationship. Is that true or false? All right, that is false. Just because you set a boundary with a sibling does not mean you're giving up on the relationship. The next one, it's okay to love a sibling from a distance if being close causes harm. True or false? That is true. It is okay to love a sibling from a distance if being close causes harm. Number three, if you don't feel close to your sibling, it always means something went wrong. That is false. If you don't feel close to your sibling, sometimes you're just not on the same wavelength. That is fine. Yes, it's fine. Nobody's fault, just misalignment. That's okay. Family therapy is only for families in crisis. Is that true or false? That one is false. Family therapy is for when your mental health may not be so good. And just because your mental health isn't going all that great doesn't mean you're in a crisis. Um, Sometimes family therapy will help to improve communication. It will help to improve coping mechanisms. And I want to put this, I'm going to change this myth about therapy that when you go to therapy, it will eradicate all of your problems. I like to think of myself as a magician. However, I'm not a miracle worker, right? Because you guys have to do work as well. I do sprinkle some pixie dust and some magic on it, but you have to do the work. And sometimes you're not looking for a complete change. It just may be the communication that improves. It may be the listening that improves. It might be how you cope with how your sibling naturally shows up that gets better. We got to stop looking for instant gratification and end all be alls. That is not the reality that we live in. You're just looking for um, improved understanding because understanding begets tolerance. You want to tolerate them a little bit more. You have the right to protect your mental health even if others disagree. Is that true or false? And I will repeat that because I kind of just popped that right in after I got finished talking. You have the right to protect your mental health even if others disagree. That is true. Oftentimes, you won't set boundaries with your siblings because you're worried about what your great aunts or your aunties or your cousins or any other family members looking on might think of you. Also, you might be in a secret little competition with another set of cousin siblings to see who's the closest one, and you want to keep up the image that you actually are getting along with your sibling. So you won't set some good boundaries. And I'm here to tell you right now, free yourself from that because you're not serving anybody. Your mental health is deteriorating, and it's time for you to get real about what's happening. And the very last one, all sibling relationships can and should be repaired. True or false? That is false. Not all of them can be repaired. I'm so sorry. If you thought that your extremely abusive sibling who has complex trauma, who has not gotten any help, who subconsciously abuses you with no accountability and no awareness can be repaired by you tolerating it. You're only going to hurt yourself more emotionally. So that is false. So I'm going to bring Pastor A.R. Garrison on with me so we can wrap up with some more questions, thoughts, feedback. As always, thank you guys for your attention. Thank you for trusting me in this space. I know this was a very touchy topic. I pray that I said something that has empowered you to make a change. Whatever change you decide is on you, but to just make a change.
Look, I done got some heavy questions over here, so I hope you ready. Cause
oh, look, do I need my notepad?
Look,
Let me see.
Listen, let me tell you something. Cause some of these questions I was getting, I was like, oh boy. So I'm glad you're here. But one of the first questions that I got that I'll answer was, how is it biblical not to forgive or deal with a sibling? And I want to bring you all to Jacob and Esau. Granted, they forgave, but there was never reconciliation. And if you remember, Jacob stole Esau's birthright, right? He stole his blessing. And Jacob was on the run from his brother. And they met. And they had a conversation, but after that, there was never reconciliation. And so the biggest thing that I would say, hey, you got to free your heart. Don't try to over spiritualize some things, because if it's not right for you, if it's not right for your mental health, hey, you have to have a clear heart at the end of the day. And so sometimes we can think, oh, I'm not dealing with them. God doesn't love me. I'm going to hell. Just keep your heart pure. Forgive. There can be forgiveness without dealing. Mm-hmm. And you probably wonder, how is that possible? But guess what? Because sometimes dealing will make you have hatred. So you have to get to the point and the place that you're okay within your heart that, hey, you know what? I tried, things didn't work out, but I'm going to continue to move forward. And so, hey, be okay, pray about it, seek counsel about it, whatever it is that you may need to do for you, but you have to be okay from within first. So seek. Yeah. And Janae, if you want to piggyback on that.
Yeah, I do. I just want to bring up two things that come to mind. Remember, forgiveness is not tolerance. And also, there's room for forgiveness and accountability. And the Bible verse that comes to mind is Luke 17:3. I had to look it up. I knew it. It says, if your brother or sister sins against you, rebuke them. And if they repent, forgive them. God wants us to hold our siblings accountable. And the only thing I'm going to bring up is, I didn't say don't forgive them. I said hold them accountable. Don't tolerate abuse. So again, we got to be careful what we hear. What I am curious about is, whomever asked that question, just do some self-reflection. As a Christian and as a sibling, does that feel like unforgiveness to you to hold your sibling accountable? And if it does, ask yourself why.
Another question says, how do you deal with a sibling that has sexually abused you at a younger age, and they were in their adolescence as well?
That's tough, because I feel like that's a personal decision. How to deal with a sibling that has sexually abused you at a younger age. For me personally, I have to answer it from a personal perspective. My safety is my responsibility. So I'm going to ask you, do you feel safe around them as an adult? If the answer is no, that is your sign that maybe you need to set a boundary or terminate the connection. And a boundary could look like only interacting with them when other family members are around, being cordial, being respectful, saying hi. But your nervous system will tell you how much to tolerate. I do also want to say this. There is like this unwritten rule that because it's family, you should deal with them. You do not. You can forgive them and hold them accountable. I thank you, Kenta, for putting that. Hold them accountable. What does accountability look like? Accountability looks like they don't forget the space that they have had to put you in. for you to maintain your safety. I'm not going to say you don't want them to get too comfortable, but you always want them to remember why you have to be put in a position to protect yourself. Um, and in my honest opinion, this isn't making them relive the past, but sometimes people's natural consequences for doing things like violating relatives sexually is dealing with the long-term impact of how you have to now show up in that space with them. And if you are somebody who has violated a family member, that is your natural consequence. You don't get to hang out with the family and everybody feel comfortable and safe with you. Unfortunately, now security has to be rebuilt, if it could ever be rebuilt, depending on the nature, the frequency, and if that person got help, if that person is still doing it, if that person did multiple family members. There's so many different dynamics, but I get the sense this person might be looking for permission to set a strong boundary, and you have it from me if that's what you were looking for.
This question says, what have you had to forgive a sibling for?
Ooh, you laugh because you know, huh? Ooh. I think, with me being the oldest, I will be honest, I have pretty much attributed a lot of the things that I have experienced with my siblings with their trauma and them being younger than me. So I give a lot of grace to my younger siblings. But if I had to be transparent, I would say I've had to forgive them for not making me feel loved. I don't remember, outside of Ahmad and my other brother Warren, I don't remember any of my siblings calling me to just want to talk to me, to say hi, and even have a deeper conversation. I don't. Those are the only two siblings that I can recount that have picked up the phone and we've had heavy conversations. So they actually show interest in my life beyond that surface level stuff I was kind of talking about, just being on surface. So I've had to forgive them for not making me feel loved. But the beautiful thing about that is that's not the sole place where I have been looking for love. And I wasn't looking for love from my siblings. Thank God. I've learned through life how to self-validate. I know my tribe. I know my community. My husband loves me. I got people at church that loves me. That's why I said build a support system outside of your siblings. And I don't resent them for it. I really hold a belief that they're doing the best that they can, because of where they are in life, what they've experienced. I'm not mad at them for it, but just being completely candid, I would have loved a just because phone call every now and then. I know my love language is words of affirmation. I am so happy to hear words from people, especially positive words. It fills my cup.
So I will say for me, I had to forgive my siblings, for not wanting a relationship, because that was hard for me. I thrive on relationship communication. And so I would reach out and me and Janae had times like, dang, I don't never get no responses. And, it was hard for me because I'm like, why don't you want to talk to me? Like, I just want to make sure you're good or build something. And so I had to forgive them, even though they didn't ask for it to free me. Because I'm like, you know what? With any dynamic of relationship, you cannot force anybody to want to deal, want to talk, want to text or anything. And so being in the position as a pastor, it's like sometimes you go through trauma too, just as you're a congregant for the people that you're leading. And so y'all, you got to be real, because guess what? One of our other brothers, Warren, he's also a pastor in Florida. And sometimes I be wanting us to have a dope relationship, right? But he's also a husband and a father of three. So I have to give him grace. It's like, yeah, I would love to talk to him and like us to build, but I even have to forgive that, like, hey, we're in two separate places, or even as being the oldest brother, like, oh, hey, I'm here for y'all because since our father has passed on, it's like, hey, I'm the step-in dad, if you will, right? But nobody comes to me except sometimes for what? Ching-ching, you know what I mean? And I had to free myself. Like Janae said, hey, what can I help you with that I'm okay with? And, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
because at the end of the day, I had to make sure I was okay in my heart. And so, hey, I set my boundaries, and it's like, you know what? I can only do what I can do. And
Mm-hmm.
so that was one of the biggest things that I had to forgive my siblings for. And I will also say I had to forgive them for not being the same as my other siblings. So I have three siblings from my mom, right? So we're our relationship tight. We in group text. We communicate often outside of my little brother because he don't have no phone. But it's like, hey, I have this one group of siblings that they love me. Then I have this other group of siblings outside of Janae, really, that they can deal with me, or if they don't deal with me, they're good. And guess what, y'all? That hurts. Sometimes that can bring tears to your eyes because it's like it may make you ask, "What's wrong with me?" Nothing,
Mm-hmm.
But they are in certain places in their lives where that is not a priority for them, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
And I say I give grace because talk about that empathy word. That's why I put that out there. I put myself in their positions, going through some of the things they went through as children, also dealing with daddy abandonment issues, and it shows up differently for them. Sometimes it's not an issue if they don't want a relationship. Sometimes they don't know how to have a relationship with me. And I understand that, understanding begets tolerance. I can tolerate this relationship dynamics when I realize it's not about me. I'm not inadequate. It's not because they don't like me. It's because they don't have the skills to build that type of relationship. And I'm going to be honest. If you don't have skills to have a healthy relationship, don't have one with me. Please don't have one with me. Spare me. Like, I don't want you bringing drama and chaos into my world. I don't want you abusing me. I don't want you just being transactional with me. If you don't have the skills to be in healthy connection with me, text me every now and then for money and let me say no, and you stay where you at. And I'm sorry, I gotta make a joke out of it, but that's just the reality. And it's so funny, a lot of times your insecurity will make you think you want something that you really don't even want, because it's still not healthy. The version that your siblings can give you still ain't making you feel secure. And if any of my siblings are watching, hey, I give you grace. You're doing the best you can. You're doing based on the cards that life has dealt you. You're doing the best that you can. And I'm okay with it. I'm at peace with every relationship with all of my siblings. I'm at peace. I'm not mad. I have no animosity. And more importantly, at this very healed position in my life, I have zero expectations.
Okay, healed and zero expectations. That's what I'm
No
talking
expectations.
about. Y'all, and I gotta say something on that because that freed me with just not just my siblings, but people in life. Stop having certain expectations of people, whether it come to leadership, business, parents, siblings. Because guess what? When you put expectations on people, you are bound to get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Because guess what? Life is going to change. Their life is going to change. Things happen, and then you put this mountain on their back to carry that they never knew they was carrying. Whew, now that's a right there. Stop
Listen.
putting your expectations on other people's back because it's yours. It's just like our feelings. Our feelings are our responsibility. So I'm like, hey, you know what? I check on them. I do things to my comfortability. So hey, I'm thinking about them. Let me just shoot them a text. If I get a response, cool. If I don't, cool. But that's what I want to do. Why? Because it was on my mind. So let me out. And
Yeah.
yeah, I'm good.
And talk about that safety thing I was talking about earlier. There are times where I know you've texted me and I might be busy and I don't respond. And I think in my mind, I was like, oh, I know this might trigger mine. Or I have the thought of, I wonder if this is a moment where he feels like I'm not responding to him. And now that I know you because I spend time with you, I'm able to think of that. So sometimes, even if it's quick, even if I really don't have the words to answer what you're asking me completely, I respond with something. I want you to know that I know that about you. And I'm no longer like, oh my God, why is Amon so insecure? Why is he expecting that from me? Because I love you. Bro, I will reply to you with one word if I can. So I'm here and I'm not ignoring you.
But you know what's so beautiful about this? So one thing I've learned about you, if I need you, I better call because you're not a texter. And so it's like, if I don't get a response from you, I'm like, yeah, all right, let me call. Because since we've talked and we've bonded, you told me, hey, don't text me. Call me if you need something. And so I've realized for my peace or if I need an answer to call, because if I know texting isn't applicable for you because that's not comfortable for you or whatever it may be that I need to call. So it's like, how can you adjust to make sure, hey, you're meeting in the middle? right?
That's a
We're
good
meeting at
point.
this bridge.
That's a really good point. Imagine you mad at your siblings for not texting you back, but their preferred method of communication is verbal through the phone.
Yeah. And so
Imagine that.
that really helped me come like, okay. So now if you don't respond, I know, guess what? If it's something I need quick, I'm calling. And if you answer, hey, I give you some time and then you call back. And so I think that comes too with having those conversations, and building that genuine relationship, not off of a give and take, but hey, I want to learn you. And I think that's been the beautiful thing of our relationship. Even, and I believe you said it one time before, Therapy Tuesday has allowed us to grow closer, in ways that possibly before we wouldn't have, because now we actually spend time not just brainstorming, but having more conversation because, hey, this causes us to come together in a sense. So there's like, hey, we talk afterwards or before or strategizing for things. So now it's even building a deeper relationship and bond. And with that, I want to say that to you all that have siblings. What can you do that's comfortable for both to build the relationship? Because sometimes it's about doing something that can be interactive that brings both of your presence to the table. And so this brings both of our presence to the table, and it allows us to learn and grow with each other in areas that we may have not learned or grew with. Because if you're only using text or a phone conversation, but you're never bringing the balance of this person's gifts and your gifts, because, hey, you may have some similarities, or there may be something that you can come together on that can really draw something greater out, because this is bigger than us. Therapy Tuesday ain't just about this brother and sister. It's about helping multiple people, helping the community, helping both of our visions. She has a Lifespire counseling service. I have Love and Faith Restoration Church. So we have these big visions, right, sitting up here that's bringing this brother and sisterhood closer together. And so I'm thankful for it. Here's another question. With being the oldest sibling.
That's for me?
Yeah. I'm going to let you have it. With being the oldest sibling, how does this impact you as a woman with so many siblings behind you?
I would say not as much, because even on my mother's side, I'm the oldest child. I think being the oldest child has been such a blessing and oftentimes a challenge, because I was the guinea pig. I was the first one that they had to raise. And so my mom was extremely strict on me, very strict. I mean, while at certain times it felt like I was being choked and not able to fully be who I wanted to be, I'm thankful for her being strict, because it created a personality that has boundaries, a personality that has conviction when it comes to sin. And she really created a personality that for the most part is well-rounded and secure, but going through it really didn't feel well. So I'm saying all of this to say that I have been groomed with that family role. I haven't inherited the role of being the firstborn. With that comes the responsibility of setting an example. That I feel. With that comes with helping. Thank God for healing, because my helping was very chronic. I had chronic helping syndrome. I would help unnecessarily, incessantly, when they didn't ask for it. If I smelled that one of my siblings had a struggle, I was showing up with money and a gift. And I'm so thankful that I'm delivered from that. Now I show up when I have the capacity, when I have the resources, when I can. And I guess if I had to talk about how it impacted me, it really made me, in a sense, codependent. I needed to be doing something for other people to feel valued and important, because that was my role. That was how I was bred and reared. And even though these were quote unquote step siblings or siblings that were estranged because we had different mothers and fathers, because I have another sister who has a different father, it put a lot of responsibility on me, but I got rid of that role. Hey, I am not the only one that can be responsible. I am not the only one that can set an example. I'm not the only one that can solve a problem. And I'll be honest, now that I've backed off of being the chronic helper to my siblings, they have really blossomed. Especially like my brother Warren, he's doing really good with his life and his family. I'm so proud of him. Even my sister, there were some things I used to do all the time with my sister Sharon, and I backed off. And she's so independent, she's so strong, and she does so great with her children. Like the beautiful thing is when you back off, you let God do his thing in other people's lives. Like I was trying to be God to all my siblings and I was burnt out because I ain't God. I'm not omnipotent, omnipresent. I can't do it all. I was burnt out and I am no longer in that position. Got rid of that role. And I'm thankful I have.
And just for time's sake, this will be our last question. And if you have a question, please put it in the chat. But this is the last question that was texted to us. Were you ever made to seem like your other siblings did not exist?
Was I ever made to seem like my no, nobody, that didn't happen. I think I would say no. My dad said something, and if you guys know my dad's personality, um, you know, you know why he said things. But he would say things like, "Well, if the children aren't trying to get child support from me, then they're not mine." I remember him jokingly saying things like that. But my dad was a jokester and would say things like that, and I don't think that created the idea that they didn't exist, but I really think that he tried to pardon himself from child support and the financial responsibility of raising double digit kids. That's what I got from. I'm so thankful that they didn't. I've always been very open to my siblings, but just guarded because of my abandonment issues and insecurities. But no one never, not even my mom. My mom never shunned my dad's other children or said no, you can't be around them. I think it was just a matter of we really just didn't know each other because of how we got conceived, and in adulthood or as teenagers had to try to rebuild.
Okay, and I just got a clarification to the question. Uh, was there an exemption of other siblings by an outside parent? I guess a step parent that may have came in. So like you being with your mom, like when she got remarried, like did that parent make it seem like your other siblings didn't exist because of the child that him and mom had?
See, listen, yes, we had some of that, but I think it was fear. Um, Out of respect for a few people that I want to bring up right now. I won't name them because they may be watching and I don't want to trigger them at home. But there were times where I had been made to feel not as important to my father as some other children. Um, but I think it was fear. It was just fear of there not being enough resources for all of us. It was insecurity because of the dynamic of the relationship that my dad created with a lot of women that he interacted with in his life. So the answer is yes. Did it prevail? No, it did not. Like, we didn't end up hating each other or not liking each other because of it. But how did I handle it as a child? Because I felt it as a child. um like I did with all my other trauma. I leveled up. I went to school. I focused. My trauma made me turn to very socially acceptable behaviors. I was high functioning, high achieving, perfectionist. So a lot of my trauma didn't show up as less than attractive, but the more that I felt abandoned and pushed away by a lot of areas of my life, the more I turned to education and teachers and learning. I literally escaped through learning.
That's good. And I'll say for me, with finding out later on in life about my siblings, I knew I had siblings, kind of had a smidgen of it, but then once I had my mom had other siblings, when I got grown, it was kind of my younger siblings wasn't supposed to know, and I would say that caused some insecurities and some anger in me. I'm like, wow, they exist to me. They're not here, so why does it matter who I accept? As an adult. And so that was hard at times, but as Janae said, it did not prevail. And so one thing I will say, depending on who is in your life, you have to be mindful of you. Like, is this what you want? This may be what they want, but you don't have to accept it. You don't have to shun it. You don't have to push it out. You have to be okay with you, because at the end of the day, you deal with you. And we just got a last question, and I think it's It's pretty profound. So I'm gonna ask you, and the question is, with you all's trauma, how do you feel like you and your siblings? Excuse me. What do you feel like you and your siblings have accomplished to surpass the disconnection?
Um, Not all of us, but a few of us. I think one thing we've done to surpass trauma is by having healthy communication. Openness, talking about generational curses, talking about the dark, ugly parts of the family, talking about we're really having good conversations about what went wrong, what happened. And I think that's we tell stories, and I think that's what a lot of families are missing. Like when you don't have conversations, when you're just texting or when you're avoiding, you don't get to have these conversations so you can process and reprocess and really get to conceptualize some real solutions together and really understand each other. Particularly Warren and Pastor A.R. Garrison, for sure, we really have some really good conversation and rebuild, and we're repairing and we're learning from the past so we don't repeat it. And I would say that's it. I know it sounds very simple, but that's my answer for that. We're just talking about things that really matter and that needs to be talked about. And even talking about things like our children and how we can see certain little things in them and the lifestyles we want to live and the quality of life we want to have. Like we're having some real good stick your teeth in a steak type conversation. Not like how you doing? Fine. Okay, talk to you later. Bye bye. Love you. Not I love you, but love you. You know, we're really having some good quality conversations. And I think that is really helping to turn our trauma upside down.
Absolutely. And I think, one of the biggest things is for me, we celebrate each other. And I can say, we celebrate openly and privately, whether it be social media, but also calling or text. Hey, I'm proud of you. Great job. Seeing you doing this, that has been big for me because support is everything. My love language is quality time. And so to me, quality time is also you giving your time because it takes your time to text or your time to reach out. And so to me, that also is like, okay, you care, you love me, you're thinking of me because those things matter, even though we may be states and miles away. That simple reach out of, hey, I seen this, I like that, or just collaborating. And so I would say whatever is your need, tell your sibling too, because they can't change or help what they don't know. They may not know your love language. They may not know certain things about you. And so you opening up will also be, part of your releasing because now you have given them the information, but it's not your responsibility of what they do with that information. And so, hey, you put it out there, you may get something back, you may not. But if you haven't put it out there at all, how will they know? And I'll say that's been me and Janae's biggest thing of communicating and like I said, having some good conversation. We just had a real good conversation the other day, deep, and it helps us to learn each other. It helps us to find out different things. It's like, wow, I didn't know you went through that, or that, dang, I didn't know you dealt with that too. And we didn't grow up in the same house. And you realize, like, hey, you go through similar traumas when you have a conversation.
I think there's a question that came in from Kenta. It said, what do you do when the bond is only with conditions? Like when you have to come together for the parent. I think I kind of mentioned this when I was talking, like when you try to give ultimatums to your sibling for whatever reason. In my opinion, I see that as a form of controlling. Like when you give me a condition or ultimatum, you have now put something in place that keeps me from operating how I would naturally want to operate. And for me, just the reality is we can't control people, can't control siblings. We have to express our boundaries. For I don't really understand the dynamic, Kenta, but what I would be curious about is the sibling that put the condition in place. I would be curious about why they put that condition and what they're hoping to achieve by that condition, because then you'll get the answer for what boundary they need to feel safe. Like, you put this condition in place because of what? So you guys have a good conversation. And then you could say, okay, well, I can't do this, but this is what I can do to help you with that boundary. And then you can negotiate and compromise. I hope that was helpful. I'll look out for your reply as Pastor A.R. Garrison is wrapping up to see if that was helpful.
Sorry, Kent, I didn't see that text. So my apologies. But y'all, I hope you got something out of this segment. Like this was it was deep. As you see, hey, y'all, we done almost went 2 hours because there's a lot and there's a lot more we can give, but we want you to be free or to be, as she said, healthily estranged, right? So if you got to, hey, take some time, it's okay. And let me say this, I think sometimes as siblings, you feel like you have to show up because it's the birthday or it's this. And if it's not good for you, you do not. And that's okay. You have to be okay with your sibling not being okay with you showing up. You have to be okay within yourself. And so you got to take that coat of guilt off, of, hey, I don't want you to come to my house. Because every time you come to my house, I'm stressed out. Like let's meet in a public place. Or hey, you embarrass me at certain events, so now I really don't want to be around you. Whatever it may be, you got to be okay with. And again, as Janae said earlier, sometimes the reason the relationship and the dynamic is not close is because it's a consequence of something you could have done earlier on in the relationship that maybe you didn't apologize for, or maybe you did, but that sibling has put a boundary in place until you show different actions. And so, hey, as we always hear, actions bring results. So how are you changing the actions to either get a better relationship or even just try to rebuild that relationship? And so, y'all, I hope you were blessed on tonight. Y'all, Janae, thanks, sis. I appreciate you. And she just said they only interact when it's with the parent.
Oh, yeah. I wonder what boundary, what boundary or what safety is they're looking for. Like, or what fear they have, I guess. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. What are they afraid of will happen if the parent isn't there? And if you are willing to work through that, have a healthy dialogue around that.
And she said, like having a party for him or doing something for him.
Mm-hmm.
So
I hope I got it right this time. I'm hesitant. I'm pausing to see if that was it. Yeah. And you know what? Remember I said respect people's boundaries? If you observe that they only interacting in a certain space, hey, remember I said in a couple of Therapy Tuesdays ago, what other people need to do for their mental well-being is not my responsibility to manage. Mm-hmm. If that is how he or she needs to feel safe, I would respect that boundary. Because remember, the more we respect boundaries, the less we all gonna need boundaries. So, hey, bro, hey, sis, I see you only want to interact around mom. You got it. When you're with mom, that's when I'll say hi. That's fine. That's what you need. And you know what? I have my needs too. And that's why I said, enforce your boundaries too. If for some reason that triggers your insecurity too bad, where you say, I can't handle that. I need a relationship beyond when mom and dad just there. You have the right to counteract that boundary with your boundary. I need more than that. And if you can't give more right now, let's take a little break. So that's my 2 cents. I see you put yes, Lord. So I think we got it. That's good.
So before we get off here, y'all, if you want to reach out to Janae, her website is lifespirecounseling.com. Her number is 386-400-3100. She has a wonderful, wonderful group of partners with her at LifeSpire Counseling, and they are dedicated to serving the community, the people, and family. So if you're in need of a therapist, also you can go to Psychology Today. If you're looking for a therapist, it is very detailed. You can put it down to what you are needing help with. Mental health is not a bad thing. It's actually a positive thing. And don't you understand, when you have a better understanding within you, guess what? You can have a better understanding of God and how to communicate with God. But sometimes it does start within. And so, y'all, if you need help, you need to talk to somebody, reach out. Hey, we're here to help. We're here to support. So, Janae, thanks, sis. I appreciate you, y'all. This is Therapy Tuesday. We're bridging the church and the couch. And
that's for Kenta.
We cutting it. Yeah, Kenta said you got to cut it. But before we go, y'all, if you like what we're doing, we're really trying to keep pushing Therapy Tuesday. This year is about to be a powerful year. If you know, you know. You know what I'm talking about? So guess what? For some later segments this year, y'all, we're going to be in person, and it's going to be good. And I'm telling y'all, I'm excited. Y'all, we're going to have that hot fire for you. Die line, the hot fire. So we coming. But y'all, help us to bridge that gap. Help us to do more. We want to do more things. Janae does some great things down in Florida, and I'm trying to do some great things here in North Carolina. So if you are led, if you were blessed or something touched you on the night tonight, and you want to that you do. So before I leave, y'all know I can't leave without praying for you. Y'all, this was a heavy topic for us. And we didn't rehearse it. We didn't say how to do things, but we were just going to be real. Why? Because this generation, as a pastor, I realize people want real, people want vulnerable. And so you have to be real, you have to be vulnerable with yourself. Even sometimes with your family, sometimes that comes with having some hard discussions and talks. And you may not talk for a little while after that, but that's okay. You got to free yourself. But I hope you were blessed tonight. So before we leave here, I'm going to just pray over you. Father, I just thank you for everybody under the sound of my voice. Every brother, sister, stepbrother, stepsister, whatever they may call themselves. Father, touch them right now. Touch those hearts. Touch those minds, God, that they can rebuild. They can have the love for that sibling. Father, they can even forgive the parents that wasn't there. Father, I just ask that you just heal every broken piece of their heart. Father, I ask that you allow siblings to apologize, come back together, God, and to do a new thing, because, Father, we understand that when we rest in you, that your glory will reign. So, Father, I ask that you touch their family lives, Father, and break the generational curses that have been going on and on. So, Father, tonight, touch them. Allow your spirit to show up in their house, in their car, wherever they may be at right now. Father, or those watching the replay, Father, I just ask that you show up in a mighty way. In Jesus Christ's mighty name. Amen, amen, amen. Y'all, also tomorrow morning, y'all, I have my men's prayer. If you know some men that want to pray, they want to you. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for supporting Therapy Tuesdays and Love and Faith Restoration. I'm Pastor A.R. Garrison. I love you. See you soon.